What do Trump, Volkswagen, and Tesla have in common? They are all consumed by Chinese electric vehicles. The US wants to compete with them, Tesla wants to fight them, and Volkswagen is perhaps a bit scared of the market. In this episode, we'll look at how Chinese EVs fare in Europe and their prospects in Latin America. Do high-tech electric cars mean the end of fossil fuel-powered cars and their manufacturers? Here in the US, it's simple. Legacy automakers are in trouble, and auto workers are angry. They're seeking greater job security, better contracts, and equal opportunities as the auto industry goes through a big shift. And it's become political.
Now they want to go all electric and put you all out of business, you know that, right?
Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. The workers are striking against these three. The strike isn't about EVs, but we asked the workers about their fears.
In all honesty, electric vehicles, I get it, but you gotta think, I get power outages 10 times a year.
Well, when you have electric vehicles, they're supposedly easier to make, which will take away jobs.
So that means that less jobs for union jobs. So that's probably the biggest fear.
Even with a portfolio of electric vehicles, a huge company like Volkswagen can still be in a lot of trouble. There are talks about contracts. How many hours, how many shifts, how many people? Volkswagen may be pulling the plug on almost 300 jobs in this plant, in large part because their EV sales have been falling. In Beijing, things look different. EVs dominate streets, but whether they're truly green or not is another concern. There are so many competitors in the Chinese market. In 2022 alone, almost 6 million EVs were sold in China, double from the year before. Labor is also cheap here. As companies race toward lower prices, wages are falling, making it very hard for workers to survive. So, who is winning this auto race? Are there any winners? Price is crucial in an EV battle. If it is an affordable model, consumers may be drawn toward it. Within China, local and international EV manufacturers maintained affordable prices, making it appealing for customers to go electric. But why do we even need to go electric? What's wrong with our trusty sedan or SUV? Well, of the total greenhouse gas emissions made by the transport sector, 48% are caused by cars and vans. Freight vehicles come second. Airplanes, ships, and trains make up the rest of these emissions. And these need to drop. EVs can help. Here in Germany, we need
15 million EVs on the road until 2030 not met means we will not be able to meet the climate targets in transport by margins.
That's Christian Hochfeld from Agora Verkehrswende, a climate think tank here in Germany. He was in China a few months ago. This is what he said.
Every second car on the roads of Beijing was already electric. You had a wide range of models.
Of these models, BYD's luxurious version of the Seal model car cost 30,000 euros. Their cheapest option costs less than 10,000 euros. Prices are low because of state subsidies. Compare that to luxurious BMW. Their gasoline car costs less than 30,000 euros and their cheapest fully electric model is over 45,000 euros. That's a big difference. Higher prices and an attachment to combustion engine cars are some of the reasons electric car models are not convincing many consumers. Sales in Germany dropped 13% in January this year compared to the same month last year. And so, Chinese competitors have the chance to speed right into the European market to showcase their products. But it's not so easy. There's big competition from well-established brands, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, and Cupra, to name a few. Recently, BMW's CEO Oliver Zipse said, "No one can enter a market overnight. Ambition does not equal success." He was referring to the induction of Chinese EVs in Europe. His point was clear. These companies are not a big threat because it will take them time to break into the European market. Is he right? Well, Chinese car makers have their own challenges.
First challenge is, of course, the brand awareness, because we are new here on the market. Even for NIO, we started in 2015. with its global design headquarters here in Munich. But we are still, for most of the consumer or the customer, probably still unknown brand. Secondly, is still the overall infrastructure, what we need to build step by step for our user. For NIO case, we need to also build our battery swap station. So until today, we could install 27 in whole Europe, 7 in Germany, but in China we have already over 1,700.
We'll talk about infrastructure in just a few minutes. But first, here's why BMW's Oliver Siebse could perhaps be wrong. Despite resistance and tough policies from the US or the EU, Chinese companies are committed to making a mark in the world market. They're establishing themselves step by step. Showrooms and exhibitions are popping up. They're bringing the brand closer to the consumers who will remember the car and their name. Besides, these Chinese models have a lot to offer, something European car makers are trying hard to do.
That is, they are trying to bring the luxury impression by their value added the intelligent driving features. For example, their intelligent driving computing unit or domain controllers. Sometimes they try to give you more configurations for the hardware, software in terms of intelligent drivings, and still maintain the similar price range.
The jump to high-tech EVs is a big moment for the car industry. One expert explained it this way.
We can think about the car manufacturing as moving from the mechanical to an electronic to a software era.
This is Asif Anwar. He heads research on global automotive practice at Tech Insights.
If I give you an example, would be the window lift. You had a hand crank. You hand crank the window down, you hand crank the window up. Yeah, you moved into the electronic era. You replaced that hand crank with a button, and that button then connected to electric motors and electronics, which then allowed for the operation of that window. Now, moving into the software era, we can get rid of that separate ECU altogether, and we can just integrate that into software.
Talking about technology in cars, let's go back to China, home to the biggest car market in the world.
One of the reasons why the likes of VW, even though they did bring out battery electric models, they haven't been as successful in China because their initial kind of, user experience was very much kind of, driven by what they've always done. Whereas the Chinese consumers were looking at, well, where's the touch screen? Where's the voice interface? Where's the gesture? Where are all these kind of high-tech kind of capabilities whereby I can kind of, effectively use the vehicle as an extension of my, digital experience, moving from the home to the mobile device into the car.
In the first quarter of this year, BYD, or Build Your Dreams, dethroned Volkswagen as China's top-selling brand. Germany's Volkswagen held that title for over a decade. Only months after this sales data came out, Volkswagen announced that it was investing millions and buying 5% of Chinese e-car makers XPeng in a strategic partnership to develop new EVs. And for these new electric cars, infrastructure is crucial. China leads with nearly 1.8 million charging stations countrywide. South Korea, the US, and Netherlands grabbed the next 3 spots. France and Germany are way behind with very few stations. At number 6, here are some observations from Germany.
Myself, for example, I live in pretty much on the countryside, and in the little village I'm living, there is not one single public charging station, which for me, for example, was then one of the reasons not to now, when I bought a new car, to consider an electric vehicle.
That's Beatrice Keim. She leads China-based projects and research at the Center for Automotive Research in Germany.
This is something where I think all our own consciousness needs to change, because there is an end to fossil fuel. We all need to change our attitude.
Does this mean that Germany's auto industry did not take this shift towards electrification seriously?
I think they took it seriously, But there was as well a lot of, if you have these huge companies to turn them around, it's quite difficult. And this is now, if you're talking about the NEV startups or about the Elon Musk, the Apples of this world, they come from zero. They were able to set up everything from new.
Some industry players are banking on Latin America for lithium mining or e-fuels. A subsidiary of German car maker Porsche built this pilot plant to produce e-fuels in northern Chile, which is just a German attempt to keep combustion engines in the mix. For raw materials, lithium or otherwise, car makers are looking to expand in this region. Mexico, Brazil, Argentina are seeing interest and investment. China's BYD is leading this with production plants and plans. But here's the big question. Are Chinese EVs cheap enough to be affordable in Latin America?
No,
they're not low enough. Because if we consider the reality of salaries in Latin America, the cheapest EVs still cost 2 or 3 times more than the average income. So in the end, it is likely that sales are boosted in some countries where the population has more access to credit, but can end up being in debt to acquire these vehicles.
We started with a question. Will high-tech EVs mean the end of the combustion engine? The auto industry is in transit. E-cars are the most viable option to cut emissions within the transport sector. But to make it truly green, the whole production cycle would have to be transparent. Competition from China is fierce. The whole world will have to catch up. The next question, how quickly can combustion engines really be phased out globally? Because e-cars are still too expensive for most people.